Frederick Watts.
This is Jean Watts. And this is Love in 60 Seconds.
We have been married for over 20 years.
And in that time, we have learned a few things that we'd like to share with you.
So if you're single, newlyweds, or seasoned in marriage, we think you will enjoy the upcoming program.
Absolutely. And we want you to like, engage, share, and do all of those wonderful things that we do on Instagram, Facebook, and every other social media outlets. Send us DMs. We want to hear from you.
This is
Love in 60 Seconds.
60 seconds. Love in 60. Love in 60 seconds.
Hey everyone, this is Frederick and Jean Watts, and this is Love in 60 Seconds. Actually, it's me tonight. My wife is coming on soon, getting ourselves together. We hope that you guys are doing well. We appreciate you guys that are watching on all social media platforms. We're live on Facebook tonight as well as Instagram. So if you're with us on Facebook, we'd like for you to engage with us this evening. Continue to like and share what we talk about, and hopefully it'll be a blessing to somebody. And we appreciate you guys tuning in. So we're waiting for Jean to come on in, and she's coming on in soon, and we're going to talk about our topic tonight. I hope I got it right because we didn't see each other before we talked. So she told me earlier we were talking about you chew too loud.
Oh,
so is that the same?
It is.
All right, so I'm coming from engagement, and she was working and doing things at home, but we appreciate you guys tuning in. So as always, continue to like, share, and share this with somebody, and continue to engage with us. We appreciate all the DMs that we get throughout the week. Those of you guys that are following us on Instagram, we can't really engage with you, but if you want to ask us questions or send something back to us, you can definitely hop on Facebook at Wattsup Entertainment, and we can see all that, but we can't see your hearts. So please continue to like us and heart us, and we'll get right into it. And definitely your comments and your encouragement appreciate it. Shout out to the Robishaws, one of our friends, couples that we love. Greetings in Houston. They just are one of our good, loving friends, always here supporting us and calling us and talking. And they have such a dynamic ministry for marriage themselves. And it's always good to hear from them. Mm-hmm. And so shout out to Taylor and Charles this evening.
Hey, and also Sister Kenyatta. She's on tonight. So we're glad to see her and to hear from her. And we're gonna get like kind of right into things like letting people come on, kind of just hop in, letting people. I hope everybody had a great day today. Hope everybody had a great week. I hope all of the fathers and all the father figures had a wonderful Father's Day.
Yeah.
And you enjoyed yourself. We had a little bit of a different change of plans. I had planned to take my husband out with the boys to breakfast because that's his favorite meal of the day, and my basement flooded. What's going on with these things? So I spent my Father's Day with my boo. We was cleaning up the basement.
Cleaning up the basement. Hey, Wendy McKinney on Instagram, shout out to you. Say hi to my big brother George. We love you guys.
Hey.
Yeah. So that was our Father's Day, but I was blessed because family's still here. And one thing about that is we don't even get upset about those things anymore because could have been a lot worse. A lot of other things could have happened, and God is good and He's faithful.
Yeah.
Let's get into it tonight about what we talked about. Oh, she switched over to hey Wendy, so we see you. We typing back.
Yeah,
love you.
Yeah.
So we're gonna talk about 7 things that you should never say to your spouse. And we were talking about that because the title was sort of like you chew too loud.
Yeah, you chew too loud. And I guess we could say a subtopic is when you get to a place where you feel like little things are annoying you about your spouse. Like, you can be like, you chew too loud, or you breathe too loud, or you're doing something weird that gets on my nerve, and all of a sudden it just seems like it irritates you super extra, and you can get to a place in marriage and relationship where it's just really a lot. It's like really a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So we want to talk about that. We want to talk about maybe some reasons why that's happening. And then we want to talk about like what not to do in the midst of those times. So we want to talk about, not responding in the wrong way and things that you shouldn't say to your spouse.
Definitely. So once again, this is probably going to be, you guys are like, oh man, it's going to be a communication talk about tonight. How to communicate, not just with your spouse, but everybody in your household, relationships across the dynamic, across the board. Even you can take this to your job, how you speak to your mom, how you speak to your dad, your children, everything, because it's a form of communication. There's two forms. There's verbal. Oh, okay.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead.
There's a verbal and then there's nonverbal.
Yeah.
But before we get into that, I'm gonna let you go ahead and start because I need to type something.
All right. Well, we want to talk about again. So it's not just people that are in a rough place in their relationship or a rough place in their marriage or in a toxic marriage or in the marriage with a narcissistic person or a person that is, lazy or has a bunch of other personality issues that experience being annoyed or irritated with their spouse. There are many of us, the rest of us that just are living regular everyday lives. We love our spouse. We genuinely love our spouse. We appreciate the person that they are. We think they're funny. We think they're smart. We think they're sexy. We think they're all of these things. But we have to go through periods of times where we are just annoyed by the stuff that they do, like just annoyed by the fact that they leave their socks on the floor, like really deeply annoyed though. And we're annoyed by like all of a sudden, why is this? We've been married for 10 years and you smacking now. It's just irritating me. Like it's getting on my nerves. Why is it getting on my nerves all of a sudden? First of all, don't panic. You know what I'm saying? And be like, oh, now I hate my spouse. So I just like, I'm not in love with him anymore. Or I'm not in love with her anymore because she talks with a lisp or whatever the case is. You know what I'm saying? Don't feel like that's the case. Those in healthy relationships can get annoyed with their spouse. Okay.
Because sometimes you just be in the mood. Sometimes you could just have a bad day, or sometimes you could just feel irritable. Sometimes some people, unfortunately, wake up like that. Sometimes people go to sleep like that. So you have to make sure that when you're in this thing called marriage and this relationship, that you make sure that you are always communicating and speaking kindly.
Absolutely.
And then when you don't, because it will happen, is that you don't hold on to it, you own up to it, and you come back to it and try to rectify that, because that's going to bring peace into your home and it's going to bring peace into your marriage.
Hey there, Twy and Richard. Also, and that should say 2 TOO, babe.
Yeah, okay, I'll fix that. Hey, try to do it in 5 seconds.
I know, and you did a great job because I couldn't do it. If you weren't here, we wouldn't have no words. So there you go. So I appreciate you for doing that. So we're going to get into it, like I said. So one of the reasons, first, one of the things we want to talk about, and then we'll talk last about the 7 things that you shouldn't say to your spouse. And again, forgive me because I am lisping because I do have on my braces today. So I'm lisping. So just kind of bear with me. But again, we want to get to the reasons why. So first of all, we know that even happy couples, healthy relationships get to the point where they are annoyed with their spouse with something. Not just like annoyed by their presence, but just annoyed with something. And sometimes, ladies, we can just get annoyed by their presence. Especially, if we just want to be for real, if we're going through some hormonal changes, if we're going through some changes, in our day, on our job, we can there's external factors that can trigger, if I can use that word, that can trigger being annoyed by your spouse. There are certain things that can trigger that. So if those things that are triggering being annoyed by your spouse, again, we want to make sure that they're not hormonal things. We want to examine ourselves. Okay, is it hormonal? Am I, feeling some type of way because I'm not feeling well or whatever the case is? And is that why, this person is annoying me? Because we want to deal with your response too, because if a person is annoying you, the thing to do is not to snap at them, but to really try to make sure that you're having some good, healthy dialogue. And listen, guys, you know, when we share this stuff with you all, we have to live by what we're teaching. We gotta do what we say. We gotta do what we tell you to do.
Right.
Your skin looks so nice on here, babe.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, we got to do what we telling you to do. And like I said, for an example,
Right.
when that basement flooded, the judgment that came across my husband.
See, we were talking about that today because I disagree. So we can have this comment. Like, I don't think that she felt like, how could I blame her for our basement flooding? I didn't say that. But what I did say, or what I did throw to shade, was that all the stuff that we had in the room that was flooded, you know, I didn't think was needed. And so sometimes my communication was, or even my I was like, man, it's Father's Day and I got to do all this work. I said before, I didn't like all this stuff in this room. And then had it not been in there, maybe it wouldn't have been such hard work. When in reality, is stuff that's just part of life that we acquired, things that we need, things that's pertinent, memories that, you know, held up for our family, and things that are needed. And then, you know, it just ended up being just one of those things. So we ended up having, you know, our sons come over to help and do things. But when I heard that comment, you know, I was like, I disagree with that. But then I wanted to self-check to make sure, well, if my wife is feeling that way, then I had to say something that projected that either verbally or non-verbally.
Right.
And I think you even said at one time, well, you know, I'll come and help or do something, or don't stay upstairs too long while we're working, or vice versa, to make me feel like you're in it, you know, to get it together. And, you know, and I made sure that we're doing that. You know, when she was down there working, I was upstairs doing something, or when I was downstairs working, if she was upstairs doing something, we're making sure that we're getting everything cleared out.
Yeah, we're making sure that we made progress. And so because of that, but I felt initially a little judgment, because like I said, he did convey that, like, he gave me that little shade, like, if all this stuff wasn't in this room, we wouldn't have to be digging all this stuff out. Well, hey, listen, I do a lot of work to celebrate my family and to do things. So I had like linens, and it was a storage room and all that kind of stuff, you know. So when he first went in the room, and the way that he looked at me, like, afterwards, I was super annoyed. I was like, dude, get your life, because guess who's going to have to go through this stuff? You're going to throw this stuff in the trash, but I got to go through every box and everything to get this stuff together. But the good thing about it is, and we try to be transparent with you guys and let you know, like, what we're really dealing with, because, you know, it's real life. You know what I'm saying? It's real life and in real time. And so I had to really humble myself. And my husband really humbled himself. And we had to really just say, okay, it's neither one of our fault that the basement flooded. You know, I had a lot of stuff in there. He had some stuff in there too, but it was some stuff that was just our family stuff. It was the taxes, you know, our tax returns, like old paper tax returns, and things that we had to have that was stored, that were important documents and things like that, because the room was a storage room. So we had to come to grips. Okay, we're both kind of irritated that we have to do this work, because I really had totally other plans. But we can't take that irritation out on each other. And that's one of the things that you have to watch when you feel irritated by your spouse, or if your spouse is chewing too loud, or whatever the case is. You have to make sure that you are paying attention to the reason why you're irritated. Is that irritation really coming from your spouse? And it may be, because they may be acting a fool or something, but, you know, is it really, you know, was it that you talked to your mom and she was acting crazy today, or your kids were acting up today, or you didn't get something done like you wanted to get done, or you didn't get something accomplished, or your money is funny, or you just, whatever the case is, you got to make sure that you identify what it is that is really the underlying situation, the underlying consequence of you feeling annoyed.
So because you're going to feel annoyed because you are human in relationships, and you know, we're talking about communicating. One thing, or if you 7 things that you should never say to your spouse. So one thing is that you should never say anything about wanting to regret you being married to them.
Yeah. So when you're in a moment of irritation, go ahead.
No, good. No, yeah. So just meaning, what she was about to say. When you don't ever, I regret that I married you, or say
I don't know
something,
why I
"Oh,
married you,
or
what was I thinking when we got married? I was a
Yeah.
whole nother person.
right, I could have did this a lot better or whatever, because you're conveying what kind of, that's like putting doubt, and it's putting all kinds of things in their head to
Mhm.
where the enemy can try to see, like, see, I told you this wasn't good, or but no, you stood before a whole mess of people promising that you were going to be for better, for worse, that this person was the boo and all this, the love, so
Mhm.
just because you may have a rough season, you don't want to ever communicate to your spouse that you made a mistake,
Right.
because it's not true, because we think that whatever God put together, then no man will put us under. So if you guys are
Absolutely.
together and you stood up there before God and said, this is what we're going to do, then, you believe that God can fix anything.
Absolutely.
And that he can heal anything, and that he can heal hearts, and they can do all those things. So just because you have a moment of irritation doesn't mean that you should have a moment of or a reason to speak to your spouse in that manner.
Absolutely. You should not, give your spouse the clap back, because, and especially saying that you regret marrying them. That is a very hurtful thing that you really can't go back. You can't go back. Or they'll be like, oh, well, I'm sorry for saying I regret it. I mean, you try not to ever say things that you cannot go back and fix. Like my mom used to say something. She said, we can't tell the story. Oh gosh. My mom used to say something. And she would say, never ask a person to leave unless you're ready for them to go. Unless you're really ready for them to go. So meaning, like, don't tell your husband, well, you know what, you could just get out, or your wife, you know what, you just leave, you just get out. Because guess what? They may leave. And it's hard once they leave, baby, for them to come back. If you want them to come back, oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, because you don't know where they're going.
Right. Like that one episode with Martin and Gina, when he was like, get to Stephen. And when she turned around, like, G,
Right.
Don't say something that you don't want to happen,
Right.
And a lot of times you say stuff in the heat of the moment, in an argument. I like what Wendy said, count to 10 before you speak.
Yeah.
That's good wisdom. Think about what you're going to say,
Yeah.
how it's going to affect your spouse.
Yeah.
And then how it's going to affect the vibe of your marriage, even
Yeah.
the vibe of that conversation. Is it
Yeah.
going to lead to an argument, or is it going to lead to peace?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really good rule to use or to apply, especially for those that are newly married, and those that are not newly married. Take a minute before you pop off and run your mouth. You know what I'm saying? Because you could say something that's detrimental to your relationship and that you just really can't go back on, and it's hard to do. Never ask a question that you don't want to know the answer, and never ask somebody to leave if you're not 100% sure that you want them to go.
Don't ask a question if y'all weren't saved before you got married, and start asking about
right
past
experiences and relationships,
and that's going to lead into our next thing, is that you should never have a conversation or say something where you're comparing something to the past, like, well, so and so didn't do this, or my last husband or wife didn't do this or that, or anything that has to do with comparison, because comparison,
or saying that they did do this, be like, my old June bug used to do the same thing.
Right.
Well, really, you're gonna compare me to your ex-wife, your ex-husband? Seriously?
That's a
that's grounds to get punched in the throat.
And not only that, but think about if that was said to you, how you would feel, how it would make your, then that starts allowing the enemy to plant seeds of doubt, fear, all those things that happens, to mistrust.
Absolutely.
All those things, because you have, and I'm not saying that you won't do it, but if you repeatedly do it as a part of your conversation, a part of your clapback, a part of your communication, it's not a way to have a solid, successful marriage.
Yeah, and not only we're talking about comparison, not only comparing your spouse to a past relationship or past because we're going to kind of talk about that again as one of the 7 things, but comparing your relationship to somebody else's, to the Smiths or to the Robinsons or to the Robichaux, to the Callaways, to the Stricklands or whoever, that may be on Don't compare your relationship to somebody else because
Don't
you
do
have no
that.
idea what their
What
relationship
goes-
is.
yeah,
All
what
you
goes
see
on.
is what you see.
Right. Oh, so and so cooks for me.
Yeah.
Cooks for his wife or
Yeah.
his husband or whatever five
Her
times a day.
husband,
Her
yeah.
husband 5 times.
Mhm.
You can't compare that. You don't know the.
You have
dynamics.
no idea what their
You don't.
dynamic is. So do not compare your relationship to someone else's. That's a ground for somebody being really irritated with you. They
Yeah.
will be that can cause a person to be irritated, and that can cause a person to have it can cause underlying insecurity. And then again, the biggest thing is you have no idea what those people have been through or what those people are going through. Because I have seen couples and I've caught them in my line of sight, maybe because maybe God just gives me a little extra discernment for certain things with relationship. But I see them and they just doing their thing, you know what I'm saying? Acting, and I see them give them they giving each other the middle finger pretty much to each, just like cutting. And I'm like, really? And then you come, hey, and they all
Just
God,
around the corner.
you just was cutting up. So again, we say often, God doesn't just want you married; He wants you happy.
Yeah.
So you want to be transparent. So don't compare your marriage to somebody else's marriage because you don't know what it is.
That's true. Man, Wendy's dropping some good nuggets tonight. She said also another one that'll start a fight. My daddy never would say that to my mama. It's not just your spouse, but it can be, what your parents did. You can't bring that comparison. Well, my dad didn't do that to my mother this way. You guys are in your own relationship.
Yeah.
And even though we take outside things to strive to be better, to strive to, but you can't, when you bring in comparisons and then you put it, especially in a way that you're saying it as an insult or as a dig or as a way to not build your partner, but to tear down your partner, is going to cause your partner to more likely to not want to engage, to not want to be part of them. Would be like, go ahead and live with your daddy.
Yeah, absolutely. Or better yet, saying, okay, well, my mama, she do this for me. Or my mama, my mama don't talk to me like that. Or my mama don't say this. Or my mama, I was talking to my mom and this, that, and the other. Ma'am and sir, that's a hard no. Don't you do it. Do not do it. Your mama is your mama, but your spouse is your spouse. And the Bible says leave and cleave. You better leave your mama and your daddy where they are. Love them. Both of you all love them and respect them and honor them. But you leave them where they are. And your spouse is not to be compared to bring in comparisons with your family members. And that goes actually into our next one, things that you shouldn't say. And that's insults to their family or friends.
Right, definitely. And shout out to, once again, our Instagram people. Tinny hitting those hearts and likes. We can't engage with you back, but we do appreciate you. We do see you guys.
Yeah.
And if you are following us on Facebook, continue to chat with us in the conversation. We appreciate it. And so when you're talking about insults, especially to your family or friends, you can't, there's a point to where if you think that a family member or a friend are maybe having maybe a bad influence or maybe bringing some things into your relationship that you don't like. And when we talk about communication, there's a way that you can say that without being insulting and about being offensive. But whenever you get to that clap back, when you're like, well, your mama so-and-so, your daddy don't do this, or your friend's no good, or blah, blah, once again, that's grounds to not having effective communication.
Absolutely. You can't be like your broke, tired friends, or your friends are some whoremongers, your friends some clubbing fools, or your friends are, what. You can't insult a person's relationships, their other relationships, and think that it's going to build your relationship or build your respect or their respect for you or their honor for what your words are. You cannot do that. You have to treat everybody with an amount of respect and graciousness and love, even if they don't deserve it. You do treat them with that. And as you're doing that, you can't be like, your sister is a chump, or your sister is, evil acting, or your mama is getting on my nerves all the time. You can say, hey, okay, you know what? When your mom does this, it kind of makes me feel like this. Or when your friends do this, it makes me feel like, you're influenced to do things that may not treat me the best. So when you do those things, you can, and like I said, these work with relationships with anybody. It can be with your kids, and you can't be telling your friends is no good. Well, they're gonna want to hang with their no good friends, because the more you say that, the more they're gonna want to hang with those friends. So even with your spouse, the more you discredit their family member, what they're going to do is they're going to get on the defensive to defend that friend, to defend that family member, and they're going to be defending them against you. Never put yourself in a position where you have to be the person that they're defending somebody else against. You are always y'all are always on the same team. Don't put the like making insults. It puts you on the opposite teams. Puts you on opposite teams.
That's very good. All right. So number 4 out of 7 things you should never say to your spouse. Number 4
Let's get your neck broke.
And what is number 4, for instance? They can't see that. What is number 4?
Number 4 is mentioning former lovers. You don't want to get your neck broke. You don't want to get your face slapped. You don't want to get hit in the throat. Especially, if you're new in a relationship, or you're new in your marriage, or even if you've been in your marriage for a long time or a number of years, and you mention, oh yeah, I used to, Rodney, he was ooh, he was fantastic. Rodney, he's like, he was the greatest thing since sliced bread. Are you crazy? Are you crazy? Lady, are you crazy? Ma'am or sir, are you crazy? That's grounds for getting your head chopped off. Okay, so you don't mention former lovers, because again, those kinds of things, they may not say anything in that moment. They may not say that it's really bothering them in that moment. Consistently talking about your ex-wife or your ex-boyfriend or whoever. Be like, my best birthday I ever had was with Tommy.
Right.
Really? Your husband's name is Joe? Are you serious?
Right. Right, and even if your best birthday was with Tommy,
you better not say it,
and don't say it to your spouse nor to your friends.
Nobody. you take that to the grave.
Tommy just gave you a great birthday, and don't be fantasizing your birthdays.
You just put some hints out there of things that you like that maybe Tommy did, and you say, hey, you know what? You didn't even gotta say Tommy. You're like, hey, you could buy me a scarf. If you bought me a scarf and some perfume for my birthday, I would love that so much. Or if you just like surprised me sometime and did that, that is what you do. You don't mention past relationship, past lovers or former lovers for any reason, and it can be in a non-sexual context, but you don't really need to be talking about them unless it's about business. Like you got a kid with that person, you talking about business, or it's some business that needs to happen. But other than that, lead them where they are.
Yeah, sometimes if you've been in other relationships or other marriages, there are discussions that come up about what happens, but you don't dwell on it and be like, hey, this is what happened, or this is why I do this, but this is what we're doing because we're building this together. Yeah. Because this is our team. That's life. Not everybody is able to go through those things. Sometimes you are on a second marriage or something like that, but you don't take that past with the former lover, what that lover did and bring that into your marriage, or you're gonna have some issues.
You're gonna have some serious issues.
Yeah,
definitely.
All right. So number 5 out of 7 things you should never ever say to your spouse is putting down like their hobbies or their career. Absolutely.
That is a place of disrespect. Whatever your spouse's career is, you don't put their belittle, even if they don't make a lot of money or they're not as successful in it in that moment as you would like for them to be. Or, even if as they hoped to be, you don't belittle it. You don't put it down. You don't, because obviously it's something that they're doing to, that they have some level of success in because they're actually doing it. Even if it's a hobby or whatever it is, if it's a hobby, it's something that they enjoy doing. So if they like building toy trains, let them build the toy trains. You know what I'm saying? Encourage them in their toy train building because it's something that gives them pleasure. So you want to build them up in whatever it is that they're doing. And if it's their job, if they the bag boy at the grocery store, hey, you know what I'm saying? Encourage them in that. But if there's something more that you want to see them do, or you don't feel like they're utilizing their full potential, then encourage them. Encourage them in that area and say, hey, you know what, you are an amazing grocery bag person. Like, you're great, but shoot, if you can do that, I know you can pretty much do anything. I know you can do that. I know you can go down and get a job at the plant. You can get one. You can get a job at the plant. And if they don't hire you, they the crazy one, because you are that deal. You know what I'm saying? You build your spouse up, and you don't belittle them. And especially if they're in a place where they're trying to do better, like they're trying to pass the real estate exam, or they're trying to pass the bar, or whatever it is, and they're not successful initially. You don't kick a person when they're down. Don't be like, well, you're a big dummy. You know what I'm saying? Well, why can't you pass the test? Like, what's so hard about it?
Right. Or if they like when you gave the train example, if they have a hobby that, especially for a man, you know, that maybe who works outside the home, you know, if he when he comes home and he does things and he's attentive to the family, taking care of the things, if he wants to go, like you say, build a model train, don't down him, because maybe that's what he's using to de-stress himself.
Absolutely.
You know, or like, let's say, like I like to go play golf. It's not, I like to go get away from my family or my spouse. That's a hobby that I enjoy. And I continue to ask my wife, say, why don't you come with me? You know, so a lot of times, and she'd be like, you know, I like to put on the dress, or the dress cute, but I don't want to, you know, go out there and do it, even though, but that's a hobby that I enjoy. But even when she does come with me, we enjoy it together, you know, so you always want to, don't just belittle them, because it could be a stress relief. It could be some things. But if it's taking away, like, you know, I see a lot of young couples when we got married in our 20s, I used to play video games a lot with other married guys, you know, and then there'd be sometimes my wife would be like, okay, well, you played 2 hours of Madden and now it's 10 o'clock. Where's my time? So just that conversation, be like, okay, all right, I'm 20 some years old. Let me make sure that I give time to my wife first and do some things. But it'd be like, Madden's stupid, you know, good at it anyways, or whatever, you know, when you were young, they would have been like, I would have been like, well, something I was doing before I met you that I enjoyed, you know. So if you knock it, it doesn't give me a chance to analyze it. Right. And say, okay, maybe this is taken away from our marriage, or maybe it's not inputting. I like what Wendy said, is that you should always be your spouse's bigger cheerleader. She said, break out the pom-poms.
Absolutely.
You know, if that goes both ways, I should be encouraging my wife, hey, you are the best realtor. You are the best mom. You are the best everything, you know, blah, blah, blah. I shouldn't be saying, oh, I should have married a doctor, you know, or whatever, because no, that's not what God has for me. And that's really building tearing my own self down, because we're one.
Absolutely.
So, but when you're your spouse's biggest cheerleader, then you're able to, you know, move forward, able to conquer everything, because your team Watts, your team Johnson, your team whomever. And when you have that team, then you're able to conquer things.
Absolutely.
You're able to go through things.
I also like what Taylor said. She said, I've learned to pause and ask myself, will this be helpful or hurtful to my spouse? That is very wise. That's a very wise thing to do. You know, is your brand of critique, is it going to be helpful to your spouse, or is it going to be hurtful to them? So don't do anything to embarrass them or to belittle them, because again, these are little things that will be little underlying digs that will make people feel some type of way, and that will cause them to be irritable.
Which is number 6, and almost making them feel stupid, saying something to like you said, make them feel some type of way, make them to be in their feelings, or belittling. You know, some people have personalities to where they express things, because let's say, I don't know, like a lawyer may have to litigate constantly and pull out things and point out things, but if you're a lawyer, you don't want to talk to your spouse like a litigator. You know, or say something to them to where every time you talk to them, you're condemning them like you do your opponent or whatever, because you don't want them to make them feel unappreciative, make them feel less than, and then you don't want to say it to them or say it to your friends about them.
Yes, absolutely. So you definitely want to make sure that you don't make them feel stupid. You don't make them belittle them. You don't want to make them feel some type of way. You want to make them feel great. You want to make them feel encouraged. You want to make them feel blessed. Because if you're making your spouse feel stupid, then again, that's another way that you can allow an irritant or an irritable spirit an irritable attitude to come in, and they will not like the way you chew or breathe or anything, because you're being mean to them, and you getting on their nerves, and you are not being a good spouse. You're not being a kind spouse. You're not being a loving spouse. You're not building up your spouse. You can make a person be really whoever you really want them to be. You just gotta continue to bless them and pray for them and help them be that. Especially as a woman, we're getting ready to wrap up, but one thing, I was downstairs when I was cleaning up the water and cleaning up the stuff. I found one of our old tax returns, and I looked at it. I was like, "This can't be right. This cannot be right." And I showed my husband, and I'm like, "Gosh, the Lord has brought us so far. From what we used to make back in the beginning days, financially." The Lord has brought us a long way, and we're grateful to God. We're certainly grateful to God, but it was like we couldn't even believe it. Like, what in the world? And if I had been like, "Well, shoot, you an airline pilot, this all you making right now?" You know what I'm saying? I would have been a buffoon. Wait it out, ladies. Wait it out, men, and see what the Lord's going to do in your life. You know what I'm saying? And then I encourage him all the time, and I still do. I think he's the best pilot in the industry. Like, period. Like, nobody lands a plane as smooth as him. It's like you landing on a pillow. You just like you land down on a pillow. You know how you on the planes and you land and it's all hard and stuff. Never does he do that. It's like you are landing on a cloud. You like, am I literally landed? Am I here? Am I down here? I'm gonna hit some likes on that myself, because he is like that guy. You know what I'm saying? But anyways, yeah, so don't make your spouse feel stupid. Make them feel amazing, and let them know how much they mean to you, and how their strengths really promote those strengths. Are you reading that? In one of my small groups, a wise person shared that we should use the following acronym when communicating with our spouse or others. Think and ask, is it true, helpful, inspiring, necessary, and kind? I like that. Think. Necessary, that's like a heavy one, because sometimes we just say a whole bunch of unnecessary stuff. We say a whole bunch of stuff that is just not necessary. And we don't have to, we don't have to say everything that comes to mind, because it's not, but the Bible says all things are lawful and not expedient, but all things, and even those things that, are not edifying. Are they edifying? Is this an edifying thing?
Yeah, she put the pressure on me too. Yeah, definitely. But it is something that, and basically what Taylor was saying, and even what Wendy was saying, is that you want to edify your partner. Yeah, you got to build them up. Yeah. Which brings us into our last thing that you should never ever say to your spouse is the D word.
Now, there's one. No, I'm just kidding. Anyhow, but you should not be saying
divorce.
Yes, you should never say divorce. Or like dummy, but you should never say divorce.
Big dummy.
Right. You should never say the word divorce.
It should not be an option for a solution to a problem.
Absolutely. It shouldn't be the go-to. Now, we do understand, we're mature adults. We do understand that some places it gets to the bare minimum or the bare end of things, and it's just really not another resolution for peace or safety or full on future and contentment. Right. But that should not be there's so many couples that could have made it. There's so many relationships that had they weathered the storm, that they could have found their happy place. Right. They could have found their place of graciousness and their place of hope, but they didn't weather it. They didn't make it through the worst. You know what I'm saying? To get to the better.
That reminded me of weathering the storm. Actually, it reminded me of something one of my coaches said in football. He said that losers go through and winners go to. And what that means is that a lot of times in circumstances, you are so fixated on your storm. And people that fail in marriages fail because they are fixated on what they're going through. Right. Instead of fixated on what they're going to. Right. And that's what winners do. Yeah, we're in a storm right now, but we're going to get out of it.
Yeah.
because we're pressing towards the mark of the high calling, because we're going towards that, we're going to be blessed, that we're going to have a great future, that we're coming out of this. But a lot of times when people fall or when they get stuck, it's because they get stuck on what they're going through.
Yeah, and
You know.
an example, a great example or analogy, I should say, of that type of thing. And of course, again, just kind of sharing our own experiences. I want to say it was last year, maybe, we were in Cancun and there was a hurricane. And when we got there, it was like, wait a minute, a hurricane? First we were like, should we go? Because it was like kind of a storm going to be possibly coming. We were like, yeah, prayed about it. I felt peace about it. I was like, okay, we're going to go ahead and go. And so we get to Cancun, and then they're like, yeah, we're about to have a hurricane. I'm like, wait, what? And I'm like, get me out of here. It's a hurricane, but I'm leaving. That was my thing. And I told my husband, like, you know what? We leaving. We getting out of here. I called my friends. I called my family. I was like, try to find me some tickets. And everybody else was leaving. They were trying to leave, so we couldn't even get tickets out. And then, couldn't even get back to, like, I would have had to fly to Canada, and then like, it was so crazy. Like, I couldn't get it. But my first thought was to leave and not to stay where I was. I was in a great, wonderful suite. I was with my husband, and I was like, should I leave? And there was a couple that was there that we knew. I was like, I'm going to leave them. We're going to leave them. I don't care. They can stay in this room. I don't care about this room. They can have this room. And if they survived, then they would have had a great room. Right. But funny thing is, I actually called my pastor, and I said, should I leave these people? I was like, well, I just want to let you know, because they also went to my church. I'm going to let you know I'm going to leave some of your members here because it's about to be a hurricane. And he said, well, what level hurricane is it? I was like, yeah, it's supposed to be category 1. He said, I had never been in a hurricane, and some of you never been in a storm, or you've never been in a bad part of your relationship with your spouse. And so you don't know what entails in the level of the situation. You don't know what it entails. So you feel like, I just got to get out, because I don't, is there something worse than this? Or if this is what it is. I had never been in a hurricane before. And so he's like, I think you'd be okay. You guys should just stay. And I was like, I don't know. But then I prayed about it. And my husband was like, honey, we just going to stay. And I was like, okay. And the greatest thing was, like, I had so much love and respect for him, because all night, even though it was like our furniture and stuff was blowing around and the trees was bending down, touching the side, and it was a lot, but he stayed up so that I could sleep. He stayed up and watched over me. I mean, literally watched like this over me the entire night so that I could get a little bit of sleep. He didn't get any, so that he could watch over me. But we stayed in the storm. And then when we got out the next morning, everything was all right. Mm-hmm. We went through, the sun was there. We were intact. We were still in our beautiful suite. We still had our own private pool out front. We had all of those things because we stayed and weathered the storm to the good part. Mm-hmm. And so you got to learn, as a couple, to weather that storm. And the storm is a part of the strengthening process. Absolutely. You got to learn to weather that storm so you can get out of it and get to the better part. I don't know, you want to say something anyways. I felt like that the Lord blessed that, because I felt that in my spirit.
It is. And because a lot of people may not have examples of weathering storms. Mm-hmm. So they've seen their parents maybe have an unsuccessful relationship because they did something and then they just quit. Or a lot of times you may not know as kids what you go through, but when you use divorce as an option for solutions to a problem, that's when you're more likely to quit. Mm-hmm. And so that's why we're saying, you don't use that as your go-to. Right. I always challenge people to think when you're struggling. One of the great stories biblically is like when Lazarus died. Yeah. And she called for Jesus, and Jesus was delayed. Yeah. Now she had a relationship knowing that if I call for Jesus, you should come. Right. But he was delayed. He couldn't get there. But her attitude is the way that I think most people should approach marriage, because she had a right. Her brother died. And when Jesus finally got there, she could have said, you didn't come when I wanted you to come. Yeah. And you're not here, and he's dead. and that she could have walked off. That could have been the end of the story.
End of the story.
But in relationships, her attitude was like, but you're here now.
Mm-hmm.
And then you are still able to do whatever you want to do because you are the Son of God. And I'm paraphrasing, basically, that you have the power to call Lazarus forth. That she had that faith. And I challenge you to put that towards relationships, that when you're in a storm, is that you're going to have struggles in marriages.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have issues in life that may bring a storm, may bring some things that are hurtful, may bring some things that are discouraging.
Yeah.
But because you have the belief, like Martha, to be like, nevertheless, we're here now, and I trust you that we can make it.
Yeah.
That we can go forth, that you can bring result to my request.
Yeah.
And when you have that type of faith and you apply that to any type of relationship and any type of struggle that you're going through, then excuse me, then God can move.
Yeah.
And he's happy to do it. He said, because like you always say, he wants you to be not just married, but happily married.
Yeah.
And when you have that right attitude, and when you have that heart to love your spouse in that way.
Yeah.
Once again.
And even if you don't, because your thing was Lazarus has died. She's like, surely he's dead and he stinks. You might be in a situation that stinks.
That stinks.
Yeah. It stinks right now, and it seems dead.
Come on,
but
hit them hearts. We talking good.
I know. Listen, I feel good. We talking good. If they don't hit no hearts, hit my own hearts and my own likes. But even if it's dead or seems dead, and even if it stinks already, and it's wrapped up in grave clothes, and it seemed like, okay, this is a done deal, trust that God can resurrect that which is dead.
Yeah.
The Lord asked the prophet, he said, can these bones live? You know what I'm saying? They can live. Your marriage can live, and they can get up and walk around. It can get up and it can be vibrant, and it can be loving. You can be happy. You can laugh, and you can do stuff. And this can be your boo and your partner and your best friend. Like for real, you can make it through really rocky and horrific times. We know we've been through some very ugly things. You know what I'm saying? Some very places where we just did not meet and communicate, and it wasn't good. But God has brought us to a greater place, and every day he's blessing us and perfecting us and bringing us. So, he can do the same for anyone else. And he can certainly give you the marriage that you have hoped for, and better than one that you've hoped for, one that you never even dreamed you'd have.
Yeah. So instead of saying 7 things that you shouldn't say to your spouse, should always be like, nevertheless, that we, no matter what we're going through, we're the team, we can make it together. Any of these dry bones, they can live again. Anything that stinks, that is dead, can be resurrected and made pure. Yeah. So we appreciate you guys tuning in tonight. Please follow us on all social media outlets. We are on Instagram at Wattsup Entertainment, Facebook at Wattsup Entertainment. And if you're following us on YouTube, we're at Wattsup Video. And we appreciate you guys tuning in on Instagram. Once again, we thank you guys for tuning in and getting a side view. We appreciate your hearts.
Don't fix that.
And then most of all, those of you guys are following on YouTube and Facebook, thank you for engaging with us tonight. Thank you for inquiring and keeping the conversation going, because we appreciate it. So continue to DM us and let us know what you'd like for us to talk about. And please like and share this with somebody who you think would be blessed by this.
Yeah. For sure.
So we appreciate you guys. Thank you guys so much. We enjoyed it. God bless you to Wendy, the Freemans, the Robishaws, the Callaways, Maddie Walker. We love you guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. And we will see you guys next week. This is Frederick and Jean Watts. And this is Love in 60 Seconds. See you guys next week. Well, guys, we have to wrap it up this evening. We really hope that you enjoyed our conversation.
Yes, this conversation has been amazing, and we want you to tune in again next time so that we can discuss more of these amazing topics and these topics of interest. Then don't forget to DM us, contact us, reach out to us, and we will definitely respond back.
If this has been Love in 60 Seconds, don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram.
All right, good night, everybody.
60